I usually have no problem finding questions for atheists, but finding questions for conservatives is always a bit more difficult. This time out, I look at 10 questions by Julie Borowski, who likewise did a video for liberals and who seems to be a lot more on the political right. That said, I thought a lot of these were decent questions, and so here go my answers to her questions. So, without further ado, away we go.
I did a 10 questions for liberals video, so it's only fair that I make a 10 questions for conservatives video. Same thing applies. I understand that not all of these questions are going to apply to every conservative. There's different types of conservatives, I get that, but this video shall go on. All government departments have waste, fraud, and abuse. Why do some of you treat Pentagon spending like a sacred cow?
I don't. In fact, I have openly advocated for cuts in military spending and a reevaluation of how we use our military in the real world. As they say, when all you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. And unfortunately, since we have this massive and expensive military, we look, consciously or not, for reasons to use it to justify the cost. We are quick to go for the military solution and ignore diplomacy, and I think that's crazy. And when our military costs 3 times more than all other NATO countries combined, there's a serious problem. So please, let's cut back and take a look at our role on the planet. What we're doing right now is just absurd.
You praise freedom, which is great, but shouldn't people have the freedom to smoke marijuana in their own homes?
Why? Now, I'm completely against any drug use, period. I think that if you're going to inject or ingest, smoke or snort any illicit substance to feel good about yourself, you've got some serious mental problems. I would ask how people using marijuana outside of doctor-approved medical reasons justify their actions. And I'm sorry, but I just want to get high is not a credible reason, at least in my opinion. I also support the rule of law. So long as any drug remains illegal, then freedom simply doesn't apply. It's like saying you want the freedom to murder people or molest children. Too bad. Your freedom does not extend to violating the law. If you don't like the law, there are established methods for getting it changed. Do that, then we'll talk.
We make fun of liberals for being easily outraged. Is the NFL national anthem need things such a big deal?
I honestly don't care if people roll over on their back and kick their feet in the air during the national anthem. They have the freedom to express themselves however they want. However, actions have consequences. And if people decide to stop watching the NFL because of these special snowflakes being idiots during the national anthem, that is the right of every American, and the owners of those teams also have a right to cut players who are hurting the bottom line. They have no right to protest and be free from the consequences of their protesting.
Doesn't the death penalty give too much power to the government?
Since every single death penalty case is decided by a jury of their peers, that's ridiculous. We have a justice system that is determined by the people. If the people, through jury trial, determines that the appropriate penalty is death, then I'm completely fine with that. And you have to remember that this is multiple juries making the same determination: the original trial, sentencing, and mandatory appeal. So you've got a lot of people agreeing that the crime was heinous enough to warrant death. The government has no part in determining guilt or determining the ultimate sentence. So, no, the death penalty is perfectly fine.
The US government has 800 military bases around the world. If we want to reduce the federal government, shouldn't that also include reducing military bases?
Didn't you already talk about this in the first question? Absolutely, we need to reduce the number of military bases that we have. In fact, I think we need to start pushing other countries to defend themselves rather than having Uncle Sam ponying up the funds to defend countries that use that extra capital to go full socialist and then criticize the US for not doing the same. I have no interest whatsoever in paying for the defense of anyone else except in the extremest of circumstances.
Edward Snowden revealed that the US government is unconstitutionally spying on us. How exactly is he a traitor? Traitor to who? And yes, he did try to go through the proper channels many times.
I agree, and I'm totally in favor of government transparency, which simply hasn't been a thing for decades now. Not only do I support Snowden, I think he deserves a medal. It's a shame that we need things like WikiLeaks to find out what the government is doing. We've lost sight of the fact that the government is granted power by the people. The American voter has completely failed in his duty to keep the government under control. It is the personal responsibility of every single American voter to vote for the good of the nation. We've completely failed to do that, and it needs to change.
You can still respect police while calling out examples of police brutality when it happens, no?
Yes, you can, and you should. But that doesn't mean that we can't go after leftist idiots whose position seems to be that all cops are bad, full stop. We have to look at individual cases and hold the police accountable where their actions go outside of accepted norms, and I'm totally fine with that. What I'm not fine with is pretending that cops are guilty simply because they're cops or simply because of the skin color of the criminals. There are good cops and there are bad cops. We need to celebrate the good cops while punishing the bad cops. I don't think most conservatives have any other opinions on this, unlike the regressive liberals.
Likewise, can't you respect the military and oppose the wars? As you know, Washington politicians often do not have our best interests in mind.
That's not really a question, but sure. I've opposed the majority of wars that we've been involved with recently, but by the same token, I don't think we've done nearly enough to wipe out radical Islamic terrorists. I think every single radical Muslim ought to have their head on a pike, and that includes everyone sympathetic to ISIS, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Muslim Brotherhood, etc. I don't care who's offended. In fact, maybe if moderate Muslims gave a damn, they'd be the ones out there fighting extremism that makes their religion look bad. But nobody on the left wants to consider that, do they?
Free trade is a capitalist idea. Benefits include increased growth, innovation, and standard of living. Was capitalist icon Adam Smith wrong?
Well, I don't believe in heroes, so I really couldn't care less about Adam Smith. But honestly, I don't see what's wrong with Adam Smith's economic positions. He was strongly pro-capitalist and is known as the father of modern capitalism. So you'd really need to explain more what you mean.
Some of you oppose gay marriage due to religious beliefs. I don't think I'm going to change your mind there, but why not push to remove the government from marriage?
Not only do I support gay marriage, I'm happy that people across the country can get married regardless of their sexual orientation. But really, why would I want to remove the government from marriage when marriage is primarily a government function? I'd much rather remove religion from marriage where it has absolutely no legitimate place. You can walk down all the aisles in all the churches that you want. You're not actually married until you get that piece of paper from the state. You can celebrate your marriage with a religious ceremony, but religion has no place whatsoever in determining the legitimacy of marriage. So, what do you think? I know that on some things, being a secular conservative, I stray away from what is typically expected from the conservative side, but I can find nothing rationally invalid about any of my positions, or I wouldn't hold them. Probably nothing that I've said has been much of a surprise for anyone who's been with the channel for that long, but I'd be happy to have anyone challenge me in the comments if you disagree. Be prepared to provide logical reasoning and evidence for your counter-arguments, though. I always feel that by saying that, I'm scaring a lot of people, particularly people on the far left, away, because they hold their positions largely on emotion, not logic. But hey, my channel, I set the ground rules. It would be interesting to see someone from the regressive left that could defend their views intellectually, but I'm not holding my breath. Anyhow, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all later.